कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Jaya Jagannath Baladeva Subhadra Ma Jaya Sudarshaya Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhams Parivrajacharya Stotri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Samaved Bhakta Vrind Ki Samaved Bhakta Vrind Ki Shri Shri Guru Gaurang Ki Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We are happy to have the association of His Grace Rambhadra Priya Prabhu with us today here. Prabhuji did his engineering in Belgaum, and after that he joined Belgaum Temple in 2002. And he has been very closely associated with His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj. And he has been assisting Maharaj in the legal case in Bangalore. It was a big story, even now it's going on in Supreme Court. So although he's from engineering background, but for the sake of service, he learned all the legal matters. I don't know whether he got a degree or not, but he knows more law than the usual lawyers in the property matters and dealings. And the case finally went to High Court, and the High Court gave the order in favor of ISKCON, but he could not get the possession. It went to Supreme Court. So for almost 22 years, he has been assisting His Grace Dayaram Prabhu and His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj and the whole team into that Bangalore legal case, along with maintaining his studies and brahmacharya. He was based at Bangalore in those days. And after that intense period, during lockdown, then his service changed. It was a long period. And then he got into Shastric study and teaching, Patan Patan. So he studied in Vrindavan for some months, studying under various teachers, especially His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj, Burijan Prabhu, many other teachers, and also self-study. Especially studied Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book very deeply. And finally he concluded, as is the conclusion of the scripture, if one chants the holy name properly without committing offenses, then one's going back to Godhead is assured. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said. So based on his study and contemplation and interactions with other devotees, he developed the courses on two very vital books. One is Vaishnava Ninda, so that is a greatest offense which becomes the obstacle in the path of devotional service. So prepared a seminar on Vaishnav Ninda and another one on Sri Harinam Chintamani, how to chant the holy name properly, avoiding all other offenses. Along with that, he also teaches Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav, IDC and other courses also. So he has been then traveling and preaching, organizing these courses while being based at Belgaum and assisting Maharaj in the management affairs of the temple also. So we have been in touch with each other for last almost 20 years. 2006 we were initiated together in Radha Gopinath Mandir ISKCON Chowpatty, and since then we have been in touch. But it has been very amazing to hear from him. He's giving the course in Radha Kunjberi temple and the devotees are very ecstatic there. He gave one class day before yesterday at here also for the brahmacharis, and it was very well received, and today is the second class for brahmacharis. We have also launched a course for congregation tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So we have put it on the group. We will again post it today. It's a very wonderful course. If you can join, you will be greatly benefited. And we are happy that he's here, and in spite of now after class he has to go to Camp Temple, then come back, give a class here, then evening another class. It's a very hectic schedule. Teaching also is quite a hectic service. So he has been very wonderful devotee, personally trained by His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj. So his etiquette and dealings and talk and walk, you can get a feel of Maharaj also. So happy that he is here, and he's here for this class today. This is his first class as far as I remember here, because for 22 years there was no travel, only he was going to courts more than to the temples actually. So we are happy to have him here, and let's welcome him and thank him by once loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Thank you. Unfortunately, I have to travel a while, so I'll hear the class online while you get the good fortune to hear in person. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishriki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Srimad Bhagavatam. You can display the verse there later on. No, I would like to read this and then you can display on your laptop. Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 14, verse number 40. Tatorchyam harim kechid samshraddaya saparyaya upasata upasitapi नार्थदा पुरुषद्विषाम् ततो अर्च्यां हरिं केचित् संश्रद्धया सपरया उपासत उपास्तापि नार्थदा पुरुषद्विषाम् ततोऽर्च्यां हरिं केचित् संश्रद्धया सपरयया उपासत उपास्तापि नार्थदा पुरुषद्विषाम् ततो अर्चायां हरिं केचित् Mataji's, Vaishnavis. Word to word meaning, Tataha, thereafter, Archayam, the deity, Harim, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the form of the Lord being identical with the Lord. Kechid, someone, Samshraddaya, with great faith, Saparayaya, with the required paraphernalia, Upasate, worships, Upastapi, although worshipping the deity, with faith and regularity, Na, not, Artada, beneficial, Purushadvisham, for those who are envious of Lord Vishnu and his devotees. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshipping the Lord, and he factually worships the Lord as the deity. But because he is envious of the authorized devotees of Lord Vishnu, the Lord is never satisfied with his devotional service. Purport. Deity worship is especially meant for purifying the neophyte devotees. Actually, however, preaching is more important. In Bhagavad Gita 18.69, it is said, Na chat tasmat manusheshu kaschit me priya krittama. If one wants to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must preach the glories of the Lord. One who worships the deity must therefore be extremely respectful to preachers. Otherwise, simply worshipping the deity will keep one in the lower stage of devotion. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So seeking the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas assembled here, especially some are here my teachers. So seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas so that I can speak something on this verse. This verse and the previous verse are very much connected. And I'll speak on this verse in three parts. The first part will be, in one sense, in the 7th canto, what is really happening, we need to know. And especially this last section, which is from 10 to 15, the relevance of it in our life. The second will be within the chapter 14, the flow of verses and how these two verses are connected, especially to the next verse. What is Narad Muni in his answer, discussing, so that flow we'll try to understand. It's very important. And then third, we will come to actually what is Prabhupada is trying to say in this purport. Although the purport is very brief, but it is very deep and profound. And let's try to understand that. And if we get time, then actually we will go into more detailed discussion on what Prabhupada is also saying in the Kapil Shiksha in the 3rd canto, chapter 29. So we all know that the 7th canto, among the 10 topics, speaks about Uti, which is called as Karma Vasanas. Atra Sarga Visargascha Sthanam Poshana Utaya Manvantara Ishanukata Mukti Nirodhacha. So Uti is Karma Vasanas. And this is dealt in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And two extreme examples in the Bhagavatam are given. One is Prahlad Maharaj, who had pure vasanas. Means it is not actually vasana, it is the pure attraction of the soul towards Krishna. And another extreme example is Hiranyakashipu, who had, vasanas which were completely against Vishnu. So two extreme examples are given, and that is dealt in the first 10 chapters of the 7th canto. But Parikshit Maharaj, in the 2nd canto, 8th chapter, he asked many relevant questions to 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐸𝐴 Goswami. Since I don't have a Veda base, I had to keep this open. He asked, Pramanam andakoshasya bhayabantara bhedata mahatam cha anucharitam varnashama vinishchita. So this is one of his questions, that please tell me the dimensions of this universe and the characteristics and activities of advanced devotees. Mahatam cha anucharitam. And then varnashama vinishchaya. Please tell me the characteristics of varnashram. So based on Parikshit Maharaj, this question, 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐸𝐸 Goswami is narrating in the 7th canto, especially the characteristics of varnashram, which is the section from 11th to 15th chapter. So all the questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj in the 2nd canto, 8th chapter, are elaborated by 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐸𝐸 Goswami in the remaining part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in one sense. So through the questions of Yudhishthir and Narad Muni, Parikshit Maharaj's questions in the 2nd canto, 8th chapter have been answered. So Maharaj Yudhishthir is asking this to Narad Muni, and as I was mentioning, these two cases, Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, are extraordinary cases. These are the classic cases to exemplify the example of the Srimad Bhagavatam principle, Vyavasayatmak Buddhi, Eke hi Kurunandana, who is Prahlad Maharaj. And Bhog Aishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Aprita Chetasam is Hiranyakashipu. But in practicality, how these karma vasanas can be regulated and purified, it is through varnashram. So that is why the discussion in the 7th canto, 11th chapter to 15th chapter is more relevant for us as devotees. So the karma vasanas can be harmonized by following the varnashram, and that's why this whole discussion is happening. And this is dealt in the 2nd section of the 7th canto, which is chapter 11 to 15. So in the Gita, Krishna says, Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakriter jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. That everyone endeavors, cheshta, swasya, according to his one's nature. And prakritir jnanavanapi, even the jnanavan follow their nature. And everyone in this universe is born according to one's nature. Prakritim yanti bhutani. So nigraha kim karishyati. What can repression accomplish? So when Krishna is speaking this verse, Krishna is speaking about actually vasanas. Now vasanas, certain part of the vasanas, sometimes different terminologies are used, but vasanas basically means nature, conditioned nature, the impressions or the samskars. Now some samskars are harmonizable with dharma. But there are certain samskars which we call as vasanas, which are not harmonizable by dharma. So Krishna is here speaking that one who has a particular nature, he cannot suppress that nature. Because even the learned, jnanavanapi, act according to their nature. So he is not speaking about suppressing the nature, But when it comes to terms of vasanas, vasanas cannot be, acted upon. You have to suppress them. So that's why in the next verse he'll speak about it, that he will tell that, tayorna vashamagache toyasya paripantinu. So if a Brahmana, by his Brahminical qualities, he goes through his training in the Brahmacharya ashram and he has a desire to get married, this desire is harmonizable with dharma and he can get married because that's his nature. He has a desire to get married. But that same Brahmana, when he is married, if he has a desire to enjoy others' wife, that is not his nature. That is vasana. That has to be repressed. And Prabhupada gives this example in the purport to 3.34. So here, in the conditioned state, the conditioned nature has to be engaged in a way that purifies the consciousness, and thereby one can transcend conditioned life. And only then one can engage continuously in the Bhagavad Dharma. So that is why the whole discussion we are in these chapters is very, very relevant for devotees to understand this section. Now coming to the flow within chapter 7, Canto 7, chapter 14. Now Yudhishthira Maharaj asks a question in the first verse itself. And what is this question? It's very important. He's saying we are grahastas. Grahastam etam padavim. Padim means one, how can one attain liberation? Vidhana ena chanjasa. By following the path of the Vedas. And we are what? Graha mudadhi. We are absorbed in what? We are absorbed in the grahastha ashram and we are completely ignorant of the goal of life. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, out of his bhav, although he is a pure devotee of the Lord, but in his mood, in his humility, he is asking these questions for our purpose. And Narad Muni starts replying from the second verse onwards. So Narad Muni in detail is explaining this to us. And he goes on to mention how one should worship the Lord, offer the results of the work to Krishna, and how one should be detached, completely neutral, he should be simple, he should maintain all others. Even in one of the verses it is mentioned he should maintain the dogs, even the snakes, as one's own children. Just like one maintains his own children. So that is the instructions which goes on in a series of verses. And then one should offer worship to the Lord by offering sacrifices. So Narad Muni in a series of verses explains the times and places which are suitable for religious activities. And after that, the most important section is coming up at the end of this section in these verses and these two verses. What is that? Now when a sacrifice is done, the sacrifice, there is a patra to whom it has to be offered. And who is the patra? It is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this has been established in the Rajasuya sacrifice. So in few verses he explains how Krishna is the patra for the Rajasuya sacrifice. And this Krishna is actually the root of this universe, and all living beings are resting and residing in him. And that's why in the last two classes, where His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu and Antardeep Prabhu discussed how the Paramatma is situated in all living beings. And the Paramatma is manifested based on the level of austerity, knowledge, and the level of consciousness in all living beings. Now, since the Lord itself is the patra for offering of the sacrifice, but the Lord was there during the end of Dwapar Yuga, during the past times. When that Lord is not there now, whom should we offer this patra? We should offer to the Lord Himself, whose perfect representative is the devotee. And there is no difference between the two, because it is the Lord Himself only. But in the last verse, it was spoken that if the devotees disrespect, because the Lord is in the heart, and if one disrespects, and this kind of a disrespect was seen, and that is why in Treta Yuga, the deity worship was started. Now in this verse, in today's verse, it is mentioned, in the previous verse it was mentioned that because of this avagya or disrespect, the deity worship was introduced. And now in this verse it is mentioned, if one performs this deity worship, tato archayam harim kechit, he performs this deity worship and saparaya. Paraya means, in Udupi, the paraya is there, worshipping the deity with all the paraphernalia. He worships the deity with some shraddhaya. He worships the deity with faith, upasata. But although he is worshipping like this, but what? Although he is worshipping the deity, now Prabhupada's word-to-word meaning is very, very important. How do I minimize this? I'm not so good in control. No. How do I reduce this so that we can see very clearly the word-to-word meaning? Yes. I have to go back now. Yes. So Prabhupada, in the word-to-word meaning, you have to say Harim. He doesn't not only say that who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there he is mentioning in the bracket the form of the Lord being identical with the Lord. And then some Shraddha he says with great faith, and Upasata api, although worshipping the deity, again in the bracket, although it's deity, but here Prabhupada in the bracket says with faith and regularity. But it is not beneficial if somebody is worshipping the deity like this, but if he is envious of Vishnu and his devotees. So here is the point, and whole Prabhupada's purport is based on this and the previous verse purport. Now the previous verse purport and this purport is very much connected. Now in the previous verse purport, Prabhupada quoted the verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is Archayam Eva Hare verse. So in the previous verse, Prabhupada quoted this, Archayam Eva Hare Pujam Yaha Shraddhayeta Na Tad Bhakteshu Chaneshu Sa Bhakta Prakrita Smrita. So Prabhupada says that these are Kanishtadhikaris. These are Kanishtadhikaris. Now we have to understand this very, very carefully and very, very scrutinizingly. Now, from the Bhagavad perspective, Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttam Adhikaris are discussed. Now, this Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam are Bhagavats. These are who? These are Bhagavats. And a Kanishta Bhagavat is being discussed in this verse. And this Bhagavad perspective of Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttama is based on the level of consciousness or the vision. And although he has faith, Shraddhayeta, his faith is not pure faith. And that's why Prabhupada, some Shraddhaya has come in this verse. Although he is worshipping with faith, his faith is not pure faith. Because if he had pure faith, then he will worship the Vaishnavas. And because na tad bhakteshu chaneshu, because he doesn't worship the devotees where the Lord is moving as the Paramatma in the heart, but he only worships the deity and doesn't worship the devotees, so that is why his faith is not pure faith, or what is called as Shastriya Shraddha. His Shraddha is Laukik Shraddha. And that is why he is not a Vaishnava. He is a Vaishnava Pray or a Vaishnava Abhas. He is a semblance of a Vaishnava. And please remember whom this is being spoken about, of a Uttama, Kanishta. Only when such a Vaishnava who is doing deity worship and chanting the holy names, only when he comes to the point of attaining that Shastriya Shraddha, and that can happen only when he chants the Shuddha Naam of the Lord. And that too only when he chants the Shuddha name of the Lord, the pure name of the Lord, only once. How many times? Only once. Then he comes to the post of a Vaishnava. He comes to the post of a Vaishnava. Till that point, he is actually Kanishta and Prakrita. Prakrita means he is not a Vaishnava, he is a Vaishnava Abhas. And that is why for such a Vaishnava, who is a Vaishnava Abhas, it is recommended that one should continuously perform deity worship. And because he has these bhavanas, these emotions, that is of dvesh or disrespect, unless this contamination is purified, he should continue to worship the deity. And this comes in the Varnashram, the deity worship. Because this worship of the deity is based on the conditioned nature. And as long as you don't realize the Lord in the heart, you don't realize that the Lord is there in the heart of all living beings. Until then, you cannot give respect to the Vaishnavas. So as long as you don't come to this level, till then one should continue his deity worship. And the moment he realizes the Lord in the heart, he realizes that the Lord is there in the heart of all living beings. And then he starts offering respect. Then he is able to chant the Shuddha Naam, and then he is actually able to make further advancement. So the point is that how do we come into devotional life? We come into devotional life because we offer respects to a Vaishnava. And that respect destroys the offenses within us, by which we have aversion to the Lord. And that is the entry point where bhakti can enter the heart. And now being in the association of Vaishnavas, because we have not elevated to that level of consciousness, when we disrespect, what happens? That blocks the devotion in the heart. And this becomes a stumbling block in the path of bhakti. Now, very interesting, Srila Prabhupada in the purport is mentioning in the purport to this verse, is mentioning that such a devotee who is Kanishta or Vaishnav Abhas, He's not yet a Kanishta Vaishnava. He's Vaishnav Abbas, and his faith is not pure faith. Such a devotee should continue to worship the Lord, and that is why Prabhupada in the purport is saying deity worship is especially meant for purifying the neophyte devotees. And it is Prakrita Smrita. He is a Prakrita Bhakta. He is not a Vaishnava. He is a Prakrita Vaishnava. And then Prabhupada is saying, however, preaching is more important. And then Prabhupada is quoting this Gita verse. So here we have to understand, sometimes devotees think we are preachers, and we need not do deity worship. But preacher means one who is a Madhyamadikari from the Bhagavad perspective. And as per Madhuri Kadamani, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is saying only a Madhyama who's carrying the Lord in the heart. The Ladini Shakti and the Samvit Shakti, potency in the form of Bhakti Shakti is carrying in the heart. He's carrying the Lord in the heart, and the Lord is completely controlled by his devotee. Wherever he wants, he can sell the Lord. So this is referring to a Madhyamadikari who is a Madhyam Bhagavat. And only a Madhyam Bhagavat who is on the stage of Bhava minimum. He's a Madhyam Bhagavat. He is actually a preacher. He is actually a preacher. So, Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we cannot go into that discussion in detail, time is up. He mentions that, Yandra Mukhe Eka Krishna Nam, in the purports, he mentions that a neophyte devotee is also a pure devotee, he says, who's preaching, and by his preaching, others can become devotee. There, Prabhupada very clearly is explaining that who is this neophyte devotee? He is actually a Kanishta Vaishnava. He is a Kanishta Vaishnava, but he has chanted once the pure name. Once the Shuddha Naam. But please remember, he is a Kanishta. And his faith is also not pure, for your kind information. Only from there he advances to Shastriya Shraddha, he comes to the Madhyam platform, then he is a Madhyam Adhikari who is Nirandar taking Shuddha Naam. He is a preacher. And that is why Prabhupada is saying such a preacher, a devotee, a neophyte, should what? Be extremely respectful. He should be what? Extremely respectful. So it is referring to actually a very, very advanced devotee who is on the stage of Bhava. It is not referring to devotees who after 15 years, 20 years have understood the philosophy and doing preaching. He is not a Madhyamadikari. From the Bhagavad perspective, we have to understand. He still remains a Kanishta. I don't know about others, I'm speaking for myself. So only such a preacher is actually preaching the message, and he should be extremely respectful. That's the point Prabhupada is saying. Now we all know in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada reveals his heart. And he speaks in his purports that, my God brothers are envious about me. And one who is empowered preacher, if you are envious, Prabhupada said to his God brothers who are even sannyasis, what? They are Kanishtadikaris. So here we can understand that even a Bhagavat who is a sannyasi can be on the level of what? Kanishtadikari. And moreover, moment he criticizes another Vaishnava, he falls down from that Kanishta platform to not a Vaishnava, but he comes down to Vaishnav Abhas. So Prabhupada is speaking this in his purports, not to speak about himself, but to protect them and to protect us. to protect us. Because as long as we disregard a Vaishnava, disrespect a Vaishnava, or to a higher degree are envious of a Vaishnava, as this verse is mentioning, and we are envious because seeing that Vaishnava's glory, you know, all these things, if we have, then we criticize Vaishnava. And as long as we criticize Vaishnava Ninda, if we criticize a Vaishnava, name will never manifest in the heart. Naam spurit hobe na, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions. So that's the point being discussed. Now within this flow of these verses, Patra is actually who? It is Krishna. But, the Lord resides as a Paramatma and he is manifest based on the level of consciousness. And now these two verses spoke about, why one should not do avagya, and that's why in Treta Yoga deity worship started. And this verse, one who is not a Vaishnava, he is Vaishnava Bhas, should worship the deity and be very, very respectful to such a Mahabhagavat so that he can make advancement. That's the only progress. That's the only way he can make progress. Now in the next verses, Krishna will speak about worshipping such a Vaishnava and making him as a Patra. And then we can make progress. So that's how the connection is. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. We discussed that based on this Bhagavatam verse, from three different angles or three different parts I discussed, how this seventh canto, which is discussing uti, which is karma vasanas, two extreme examples are there, Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. And these karma vasanas can be only harmonized by dharma, which is varnashram dharma. And that's why the second section of the seventh canto, the Yudhishthira Narad Samvad, although it begins from the first chapter only, but the second part of the questions is more important for us for practical application. So we discussed that. And then from the Gita 3.33, we discussed what is the difference between the conditioned nature, which is also vasana, which is harmonizable with dharma, and the vasanas, which is not harmonizable with dharma. And that is why this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam is relevant. And in the second part, we discussed the flow within the 7th canto 14th chapter based on Yudhishthira Maharaj's question, how one who are grahasthas, who are moodadhi, how we can attain the perfection or goal of life by liberation or in the form of liberation. Based on this, Narada Muni starts instructing how one should worship the Lord by offering the results to the Lord, by being detached and so many qualities. And then he comes to the point that what are the times and places in which one should do these religious activities. And then who is the Patra? And the Patra is only Krishna, which has been established in the Rajasuya ceremony. This Krishna resides in the form of Paramatma. And if there is avagya, then that is why deity worship is introduced. And by worshipping this deity, one should develop respect to the Vaishnavas. If he is envious, then he doesn't make any progress. And ultimately he is going to reveal that this Patra is this Madhyamadhikari. Because he is as good as the Lord himself. There is no difference. And that's why in the word to word meaning also, there is no difference between the Lord and the deity also. That's what he mentioned. And then with respect to this verse, we discussed the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, Archayame Have Hare. Although he is mentioned that he has faith, his faith is not faith, it is Shraddhabhas. And this Vaishnava is not Vaishnava, he is Vaishnav Abhas. And only by such a deity worship, when he gets purified and he chants one name of the Lord which is pure, then he is a Vaishnava. And then further, when he fully matures in his Shastriya Shraddha, he comes to the Madhyama platform where he Nirantar takes the Shuddha Naam, then he is a Madhyamadhikari Bhagavat from the Bhagavat perspective. And such a Bhagavat who is a preacher Prabhupada says should be respected and always. And then only this person can make progress. So that's a point being made. So, of course, in the Kapil Shiksha, quite in detail, this point is discussed in many verses. Time doesn't permit us to go into that discussion. So, I'll stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki Jai. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments, clarifications you have? I'm supposed to finish at 9:10, so I'll just take one or two questions as the time permits. Sundar Sham Prabhuji, he's our teacher and he's going to enlighten us. Yes,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for enlightening us. The description, the way you spoke, it appears like the way we are preaching in ISKCON, and devotees are growing exponentially
Yes.
with every year, or every day rather. But then most of the population of ISKCON only appears like not very advanced according to this calculation.
Yes.
Like Vaishnav Pray, Vaishnav Abhas,
Yes.
and all that emblems.
Yes.
There is no. So then, how to be careful, and who are the Vaishnavas? How to identify them? Who are Madhyam Adhikaris? These descriptions are there, but practically how to understand so that we follow them, or Uttam Adhikaris, Madhyam Adhikaris and Uttam Adhikaris.
Yes, it's a very relevant question you have made, and it's a very relevant point. And Prabhupada in his Chaitanya Charitamrita gives in his purport that if the Kanishta Adhikari means highly advanced, who are preachers, if they keep on preaching, then they are only going to get too many of Kanishtas. So Kanishta means, in English, it's a very nice term, neophyte. Neophyte means new fights. So although this Kanishta is quite experienced, but he'll also fight. And the new ones will more fight. And there will be always fighting. So that's not a healthy situation. And that's why Prabhupada mentions that one should come to the Madhyama platform. And it's only a Madhyama Adhikari who can preach. And although by such Kanishtas, he can make devotees, but still, if this Kanishta, doesn't further make advancement by associating with whom? The Uttam Adhikaris. And who are the Uttam Adhikaris? Nindadi Shunya Hridaya Ipsita Labdhva. If he doesn't associate with these Mahabhagavats and further make advancement, he cannot further make also advancement. So that's the crux. So we have to actually search and recognize by the symptoms and seek that association. And then only we can make that advancement. Is that okay, Guruji, for now?
Thank you very much.
Any other questions anyone has?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guruji.
Prabhuji, you told definition of Kanishta Vaishnava that his faith is still kind of weak. He does not have very strong faith, but he has chanted once Shuddha Naam. So then what kind of faith he has that, I have heard that Shuddha Naam one can be chanted when he has very strong faith on the Lord and the devotees. Then what kind of faith he has that he could chant Shuddha Naam?
Yeah. This is a subject matter which is a little difficult to understand. Basically, as I was mentioning, that this Bhagavad definition of Archayam eva hare, Shraddhayetha, he is worshipping the deity with faith. Now this faith is actually not faith but a reflection of faith, what is called a Shraddhabhas. And this devotee, although he is worshipping the deities, he is not a Vaishnava, but he is a Vaishnava Abhas. But the moment he, by his sadhana practice, chants once the Shuddha Naam, the pure name, Then he comes to the platform of Vaishnava. He comes to the platform of what? Vaishnava. Okay. And what is the symptom that he has come to the platform of Vaishnava? That he has developed from his Lokik Shraddha, he has come to the platform of Shastriya Shraddha. And Shastriya Shraddha means Shastra Artha Vishwas. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Sudrida Nishchay. Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krit hai. That means he has transcended his conditionings in one sense also. He doesn't have faith in his Swabhava and doesn't do activities based on his Swabhava. Because if you are doing activities based on your Swabhava, that means you have faith in your Swabhava, which is called as the Gauna Vritti. But the Mukhya Vritti is the Vritti of the soul, and he acts as per the Vritti of the soul, which is constitutional activities performing the Navida Bhakti. Okay. So, this is the symptom of one who has come to this platform of Vaishnava and is chanted Shuddhnam. And because he is chanting this, he has extreme respect for the Vaishnavas. He knows the value of Vaishnavas and that's why he respects the Vaishnavas. But even such a Vaishnava, if he criticizes other Vaishnavas, then he also comes down to Vaishnav Abhas. That's the point. Is that clear? Fine. Time is up. I cannot take up questions because I've been told to stop at 9:10. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. हरे कृष्ण.
I may be